Hey guys, it's Stacy from My Petite Garden. Thank you so much for watching this video. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about some of my favorite trailing houseplants. I don't know about you guys, but I personally love trailing plants, whether it's on a plant shelf or hanging in a macrame hanger or even decorated on a desk. I feel like it's so beautiful to have around, and I feel like it elevates your space when it comes to making it more jungly. I feel like it really pulls everything together. So I'm going to share with you guys some of my favorite trailing houseplants that I currently have in my collection. So I hope you guys enjoy, and as always, thank you so much for all of your support, and if you haven't subscribed already, please remember to, and let's get into the video. So here is my variegated Syngonium Podophyllum. This plant I've actually always had as a upright plant or staked up, and I think like a couple months ago I decided to start letting it trail because I could tell that it really wanted to trail. And this plant is also called a arrowhead vine, so I'm assuming if you were to find this out in nature, it would be trailing somewhere. So I wanted to just give it a shot and let it trail and see what happens, and I actually really like the way it's growing. So we'll keep it like this for now and see what happens. Here is my variegated Hoya compacta, or commonly known as the Hoya Hindu rope, and like the name says, it is meant to be rope-like, so it would definitely make a great trailing plant. You just have to be a little bit patient with this one because it does grow quite slowly as compared to other plants. I have two of these. This one here is my larger one, and it is currently sitting on the edge of my plant shelf. I love the way it drapes on the edge here, and the texture of the leaves is what really makes this plant special. I think it adds a great texture to any plant space and plant collection. I also have one that is sitting on a window shelf, and that one is also vining really nicely as well. For those that were wondering, this larger Hoya compacta I do have growing in semi-hydro, and then I also have the smaller one growing in potting soil, and they're both doing really well, so I think either one of the mediums would work fine for this particular Hoya. But as always, please just do a trial and error for your own plants and see how they do. So here is the smaller one that I have. I actually started growing this one from a tiny little cutting that was barely anything really, and I'm so happy that it's now grown into this beautiful vining plant. It did take about 2 years or so. I'm not gonna lie, it did take a very long time, and along the way we've lost some leaves, we've had some growing pains, but at the end of the day I think the wait was worth it. It's growing beautifully now, and I hope it continues to do well for me. Next, we have another beautiful vining Hoya. This is the Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen. I featured this plant quite a few times already. This is my oldest Hoya, my first Hoya, and I have two of these, one in the bedroom and one in the living room, and they're both from the same tiny little plant when I first got it over 2 years ago. It's now grown into a beautiful, beautiful vining plant, and I honestly can't rave enough about this plant because it's such a no fuss plant. I really don't pay much attention to it, and the next thing you know, it just starts growing and growing, and then it starts blooming. So I've never had any issues with the Crimson Queen before, so it's always been a very easy one, and it vines beautifully. I have it sitting on a plant shelf, a hanging plant shelf, and I love the way it looks just draping along the macrame. And I think this is such a great trailing plant. I highly recommend it. This one here is my Rhipsalis Pilocarpa. I really like this one. It's so quirky, and again, it's one of those plants that adds really great texture to your plant space and your plant collection. The foliage is so unique. It's like little skeleton arms almost. It's got a little fuzz on them, and they grow in this pattern where it's almost like claw-like. Is that the right word? But anyways, you can see what it looks like, and I can't wait for this one to actually start trailing some more. It just started trailing, I think, this past spring, like really trailing. You can see the long vine there, so I can't wait for it to continue growing. It looks really nice on this hanging in this macrame, and yeah, if you could find one of these, I think it's definitely worth a shot. So I'm going to feature another Rhipsalis. This one here is the Rhipsalis Paradoxa. Another really quirky one. Just by looking at the foliage, you could tell that it's got these little twisted knots. It looks like a little chain. And it's, again, makes a beautiful trailing plant, adding great texture to your plant space. And if you haven't noticed already, I really love adding different types of foliage textures to my plant space. I think it really elevates it, and it makes things more interesting. So this is one that I really like. It's trailing really long now. When I first got it, it was just I think like a small cutting about 5 inches or so long, and now it's almost touching my desk. Right next to it, hanging on the same macrame plant shelf, is the Peperomia Hope, another beautiful trailing plant. This little guy I got as a really tiny cutting. It was just like a little stub, and this was probably close to 2 years ago, and it's grown now into this really nice long vining plant. And I think the Hope is one of the probably most succulent peperomias out there. I treat this like a succulent, and it grows really well for me. I love the way it looks with its coin leaves just draping over my plant shelf here, and it's right by my workspace, so I can see it every time I kind of look up, and I really like it, and it's very easy, so definitely another highly recommended trailing plant. And then speaking of peperomias, this is a Peperomia Quadrangularis, or Peperomia beetle. I think this plant has quite a few names. It's very similar in look as the Dischidia ovata. Only this one is, I find the leaves to be less plump. And this Peperomia, I personally don't think is the easiest to take care of. Every time I move this to a new location, it would kind of give me a little diva moment where it starts dropping some leaves, and then it'll settle down and it'll be fine. But I love this plant because it does look beautiful on any space, and I love the way it drapes. It hangs beautifully, and it makes, of course, a beautiful trailing plant. Next is the pothos. This is actually part of a Marble Queen pothos that reverted back. I no longer have the Marble Queen pothos, but this part of it I gave to my husband so he can have a plant at his work. And because now we work from home, he took the plant back and now it's sitting in our bedroom plant space. I repotted it because it has grown immensely now. And I think people need to just remember that pothos make such beautiful trailing plants, and I find that they are always underrated. I personally really love pothos. They're so easy to care for and they look beautiful in any plant space. The last one that I wanted to share with you guys is a very fun one. This is the Dischidia Pectinoides. And this one has very cute foliage, and aside from it being cute, it can also form these larger leaves that are called ant leaves. And if you can see right there, there's one. It looks almost like a bubble, and what it does is it has a symbiotic relationship with ants in nature. So if this plant were to be growing out in nature, the ants would utilize this leaf because it's hollow inside, so they would utilize it as a kind of like a home, and the plant would actually feed off of what the ant produces. And I think it's so interesting and so much fun. And don't worry, if you grow this as a house plant, it won't attract ants. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful, and maybe you get some inspiration for your own plant space. And as always, if you have any more questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below and I'll definitely get back to you. If you haven't already, please make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!